Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really practical question, especially for older adults interested in Tai Chi. We know it's good, but what's the best way to do it? Specifically, if you commit to, say, 150 minutes a week, does it make a difference if you do, like, 5 short sessions or 3 longer ones? Frequency versus duration, that's the core of it. And we're grounding this whole discussion in some solid science. We're diving deep into a specific randomized controlled study. It's titled, Can the Frequency and Intensity of Tai Chi Influence the Magnitude of Adaptations in Health Markers and Physical Fitness in Older Adults? A randomized controlled study.
That's right. It's a key piece of work by WenHua Zhai, QingHua Zhai, LiXin and XiaoYuan. And for those who want to dig even deeper later, you can find it published in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine. It's in the 2025 volume 24, pages 871 to 880.
Okay, so here's our mission today for you listening. We're going to break down this 16-week study. We want to figure out which schedule, the high-frequency one or the longer duration one, actually delivered better results for physical strength, for mental sharpness, and for endurance. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of the regimens, maybe just quickly frame why this is so important. Why does optimizing exercise like Tai Chi matter so much for older adults?
Well, it's crucial because, unfortunately, physical inactivity is a huge risk factor. We know that being sedentary increases the risk of, dying from any all-cause mortality by about 34% in older adults. That's significant. And beyond that, inactivity just speeds up some natural aging processes. Things like losing muscle mass, sarcopenia, declines in functional strengths, and even increases in systemic inflammation. So finding ways to stay active is key. And Tai Chi is a great option because it hits multiple areas: balance, strength, flexibility, mindfulness. It's a really valuable multimodal kind of activity.
Right, which makes figuring out the best dose really practical. So tell us about how they set up this study to compare the doses. It sounds quite clever.
It really was quite elegantly designed. They took 46 older adults, everyone was 65 or older, and randomly assigned them to one of 3 groups for 16 weeks.
Okay, 3 groups. What were they?
So you had 2 active Tai Chi groups and 1 control group. The first Tai Chi group, let's call them the 3-day group, TC3, they did Tai Chi 3 times a week.
Okay.
But their sessions were longer, 50 minutes each. That adds up to 150 minutes per week.
Got it. 3 times 50 minutes.
Exactly. Then you had the second group, the 5-day group, TC5B. They did Tai Chi 5 times a week.
More frequent?
More frequent, but shorter sessions, only 30 minutes each time, which again adds up to the same 150 minutes per week.
Ah, I see. So both groups did the exact same total amount of Tai Chi each week.
Precisely. That's the key. By keeping the total weekly volume identical 150 minutes, the study forces the comparison onto the distribution. Is it better to get that dose in 3 bigger chunks or 5 smaller ones?
And the third group?
The third group was the control group. They just continued with their usual daily activities, no structured Tai Chi program.
Right. Makes sense. And they measured a lot of different things to see what changed over those 16 weeks.
Oh yes, quite a comprehensive list. They looked at cognitive function using the MoCA test. That's the Montreal Cognitive Assessment.
Okay.
They measured perceived stress with the PSS, the perceived stress scale. Then physically, they tested strength, things like hand grip strength, arm curls, and chair stands.
So upper and lower body strength plus grip.
Yep. They also measured agility using the 8-foot up and go test, which is great for assessing mobility and fall risk. Functional capacity via the 6-minute walk test, how far you can walk in 6 minutes. And finally, flexibility using standard tests like sit and reach and back scratch.
Wow. Okay. They covered a lot of ground. So where should we start? Maybe with the mental health side, cognitive function and stress.
Yeah, let's start there because the results were pretty consistent. Basically, Tai Chi helped, regardless of the schedule. For cognitive function, the MoCA scores, both the 3-day group and the 5-day group, showed significant improvements compared to the control group who didn't do Tai Chi.
Significant improvements. Okay. Was one group better than the other?
Not really, no. The average improvement was quite similar, around 4.7 points on the MoCA scale for both groups. It suggests that just getting that 150 minutes a week is good for the brain, and it doesn't seem to matter much if it's split into 3 or 5 sessions.
Interesting. Okay. What about stress? Did we see the same pattern there?
Pretty much the same trend, yes. Both the 3-day and 5-day groups significantly reduced their perceived stress levels compared to the control group. Again, showing Tai Chi works.
But was there any difference between the 2 Tai Chi groups?
There was a slight hint, actually. If you look closely at the average scores on the perceived stress scale, the PSS, the 5-day group, the ones practicing more frequently, almost daily, they showed a slightly larger average reduction in stress. Is about 6.3 points down.
Okay, 6.3 points. And the 3-day group?
Their average reduction was about 3.3 points. Still significant compared to control, but not quite as large a drop as the 5-day group.
Huh. So, not a huge difference, but maybe a little nudge favoring the more frequent, shorter sessions for stress management.
It could suggest that, yeah, Tai Chi isn't just physical movement. It's very much a moving meditation. It involves mindfulness, focused breathing, attention control.
Right.
So one way to think about it is that the 5-day group was getting that little dose of mindfulness and stress regulation almost every day. It might be that more frequent, shorter exposures help reinforce those stress buffering mechanisms more consistently. Perhaps it has a more regular effect on things like cortisol levels.
Like building small daily defenses against stress versus bigger ones less often.
Exactly. That consistent reinforcement might just give it a slight edge for day-to-day perceived stress.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. But now, let's shift to the physical results. Because you mentioned earlier, this is where things get really interesting, and the differences between the groups become much clearer.
Yes, this is where the frequency versus duration question really comes into play. When we look at strength and agility, one group clearly pulled ahead.
All right, let's hear it. Which group won for strength and agility?
It was the high-frequency group, the 5-day group.
The ones doing 30 minutes 5 times a week.
That's the one. When they look at the strength tests, the arm curl for upper body, the chair stand for lower body, and the hand grip strength.
Yeah.
Only the 5-day group showed results that were significantly better than the control group after the 16 weeks.
Wow, only the 5-day, not the 3-day group.
Not significantly better than control, no. The 5-day group, for instance, improved their arm curl score by 5 repetitions more than the control group.
Okay.
And the chair stand test, which is so important for everyday function like getting out of a seat, they were about 5.4 repetitions better than control.
That sounds like a meaningful difference in functional strength.
It really is. And hand grip strength, often seen as a marker for overall frailty.
Right.
Again, only the 5-day group showed a significant jump. They increased their grip strength by about 4 kilograms internally, which translated to being 10.5 kilograms stronger than the control group at the end of the study.
10.5 kilos stronger grip compared to controls. That's substantial.
Definitely. And the pattern held for agility, too. The 8-foot up-and-go test measures how quickly and safely you can get up, walk a short distance, turn, and sit back down.
Good measure for fall risks.
Exactly. And again, only the 5-day group performed significantly better than the control group after the intervention. They were almost a full second faster on that test compared to controls.
Okay, so for strength, upper body, lower body grip, and for agility, the 5 days a week schedule was the clear winner. Why? They did the same total time. Why did 5 shorter sessions beat 3 longer ones for muscle gains?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thinking is that it comes down to neuromuscular stimulation.
Yeah.
Building strength and improving coordination isn't just about total volume. It's also about how often you signal to your muscles and nervous system to adapt. The 5-day-a-week schedule provides that signal much more frequently, 5 times a week versus 3. This more regular stimulation seems to be more effective at driving the adaptations needed for strength gains and better motor control, especially with the slow, controlled movements of Tai Chi that recruit various muscle groups.
So that frequent, almost daily practice is key for triggering those strength and coordination improvements.
It appears so, based on these results. It suggests there might be a threshold for frequency needed to really maximize those specific gains, even when total volume is matched.
Fascinating. Okay, so if your main goal is building strength, improving balance, reducing fall risk, the advice would lean towards more frequent, shorter sessions.
That's what this study strongly suggests.
You mentioned a twist, an endurance twist. This sounds like it complicates things.
It does, yes. Because when we look at functional capacity or endurance, the results flipped.
Flipped, how so?
We need to look at the 6-minute walk test. This measures how far someone can walk continuously in 6 minutes. It's a really good indicator of cardiovascular endurance and the ability to sustain activity, like walking around shops or a park.
Right, makes sense. What did they find?
Here's the twist. While both Tai Chi groups improved their walking distance compared to their own baseline, only the 3-day group.
The ones doing the longer 50-minute sessions.
Yes, only that group showed a significantly greater walking distance compared to the control group at the end of the 16 weeks.
Really? So the 5-day group, the strength winners, they didn't significantly outperform the control group on the walking test.
Correct. Their improvement wasn't statistically different from the control group's change, but the 3-day group walked substantially farther, about 59 meters farther, on average than the control group by the end.
Wow, okay, that is a twist. So wait a minute. 5 short sessions are better for strength and agility, but 3 longer sessions are better for walking endurance, even though the total weekly time is identical.
Exactly. It seems counterintuitive at first, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. How do we explain that? Why would longer sessions specifically boost endurance?
Well, the interpretation here focuses on the nature of endurance adaptation. Improving cardiovascular fitness and muscular endurance for sustained activity like walking might require a certain uninterrupted duration of exercise within a single session.
A threshold of continuous work.
Precisely. Those longer 50-minute sessions in the 3-day group might have provided a stimulus that crossed that threshold, prompting better improvements in aerobic capacity and the ability of the muscles to sustain effort over time. The shorter 30-minute sessions, even though frequent, might not have been long enough individually to trigger those specific endurance adaptations as effectively.
So the body needs that sustained period of work in one go to really push the endurance systems.
That seems to be the implication for this type of activity. It suggests that for improving how long or far you can walk continuously, the length of the individual session matters more than just the frequency, even if the total weekly volume is the same.
That's a really crucial distinction for practical advice. If someone's main goal is, say, to be able to walk comfortably for longer periods, do errands, that kind of thing.
Then based on this study, you'd lean towards recommending fewer but longer Tai Chi sessions per week.
Okay. This is painting a much more nuanced picture than just Tai Chi is good. The how really matters, depending on the goal.
It certainly does.
So we have clear winners, 5 days for strength agility, 3 days for endurance. But for completeness, were there any areas where neither Tai Chi schedule made a significant difference compared to the control group?
Yes, there were a couple of areas with null findings, which is also important information.
Right. We didn't change much.
They didn't find any significant differences between any of the groups, including the control group when it came to blood pressure, either systolic or diastolic.
Okay. Any thoughts on why Tai Chi didn't impact blood pressure here? It often does in other studies.
The researchers suggest it's likely because the participants, on average, weren't hypertensive to begin with. Their baseline blood pressure was relatively normal.
Ah, so there wasn't much room for improvement. A ceiling effect, maybe?
Potentially, yes. Tai Chi often shows the biggest benefits for blood pressure in people who already have high blood pressure.
Makes sense. What else showed no significant difference?
Flexibility. They use standard tests like the sit and reach for hamstring and lower back flexibility and the back scratch test for shoulder flexibility.
And no significant changes there between the groups.
No significant differences were found post-intervention. The explanation offered is that perhaps the specific style of Tai Chi used, or the intensity, didn't focus heavily enough on large ranges of motion to push flexibility limits further. Or, similar to blood pressure, maybe the participants already had reasonably good baseline flexibility.
Okay, so BP and flexibility didn't show significant divergence based on the intervention. Good to know. All right, let's try and synthesize this. What's the core conclusion we can pull out for you, the listener, from this deep dive?
I think the first big takeaway is positive. Tai Chi, at this 150-minute weekly dose, is clearly effective for mental well-being. Both schedules significantly improved cognitive function and reduced perceived stress compared to doing nothing.
Right, so for the brain benefits, just getting those 150 minutes in seems to work, whether it's 3 by 50 or 5 by 30.
Exactly. But the second, and perhaps more surprising takeaway, is for physical fitness. Here, the schedule really dictates the outcome.
Yeah, that's the key finding.
If your primary goal is building muscle strength, improving agility, and likely reducing fall risk, this study points towards needing higher frequency that 5-day-a-week regimen, even with shorter sessions. But if your main goal is improving functional capacity, specifically your ability to walk farther or longer, then the evidence here favors fewer but longer sessions, the 3-day-a-week regimen with 50-minute durations.
So it really allows for tailored recommendations based on individual goals. That's incredibly useful.
It really is. Consistency is key, but how you structure that consistency matters for different physical outcomes.
Now, this study looked at 2 specific schedules. Does it leave us with any lingering questions or maybe a provocative thought to ponder?
I think it does, since both regimens clearly had distinct, significant benefits, one for strength agility, the other for endurance. It raises a fascinating question for future research.
Which is?
Could we design a schedule that captures the best of both worlds? What if you did, say, 4 sessions a week, maybe 40 minutes each. Still around that 150-minute total.
Ah, sort of a hybrid approach.
Exactly. Could a schedule like that provide enough frequency to boost strength and enough session duration to boost endurance simultaneously? This study sets the stage beautifully to explore those kinds of combined approaches.
That's a great point. Something for researchers and maybe even practitioners experimenting carefully to consider. So if you're listening and thinking about your own fitness, or maybe advising older adults, remember this. Tai Chi works, but tailoring the frequency and duration based on specific goals, strength versus endurance, could make a real difference.
Absolutely. And while we've summarized the key findings, there's so much more detail in the full paper.
Good point.
If you're really interested, I'd encourage you to look up the actual study we discussed. Reading the primary source always offers deeper insights into the methodology, the full data, and the researcher's own discussion.
Excellent advice. We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable, actionable insights into optimizing Tai Chi. If you found this helpful, please do follow our channel and maybe turn on notifications so you don't miss our next exploration into new research. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.